and welcome to BBC World, the voice of Pan-Africanism, bringing you the latest news highlights of the hour. I am Tabitha John. Do stay with us, commencing with the headlines. A political economic analyst for Africa said Ethiopia's access to seaport brings immense benefits to all people of East Africa. And ancient West African scripture used in the film Black Panther takes center stage in Dubai Art Exhibition. Prime Minister Petr Fiala of the Czech Republic said his country is desirous to expand its long-standing relations and cooperation with Ethiopia through economic cooperation. On Saturday morning, both Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed and Prime Minister Petr Fiala held a discussion at the office of the Prime Minister to review bilateral issues and future cooperation between the two countries. Following his meeting with PM Abiy, the Czech Prime Minister recalled that the Ethio-Czech relations have almost a century of tradition, and there is certainly much to build on. He also thanked Prime Minister Abiy for the warm reception accorded to him and his delegation. PM Petr Fiala believes that the latest meeting between him and PM Abiy will contribute to even better relations between the two countries. PM Fiala noted that the Ethio-Czech cooperation in the field of hydrology long tradition and began in the 1970s. In addition to his visit, Fiala also opened the Ethio-Czech Business Forum in Addis Ababa, according to FBC. After concluding his stay in Ethiopia, Prime Minister Petr Fiala is also heading to Kenya, Ghana, Nigeria, the Ivory Coast for working visits. Ethiopia and Japan have held a policy dialogue and discussed on the Development Cooperation Charter, the new country assistance policy for Ethiopia, and rolling plan for Japanese assistance to Ethiopia. The meeting was chaired by State Minister of Finance Emerita Sawaso and Japanese Ambassador to Ethiopia Eto Takako. Japanese government held briefings on the draft country assistance policy for Ethiopia. The aim is to support human security, promote economic growth, improve social services, and facilitate Japanese companies' entry into the Ethiopian market. This will strengthen bilateral friendship, cooperation, and Japan's presence in African regional diplomacy. The other targets included promoting a market economy led by the private sector, rebuilding economic infrastructure, establishing a sustainable socio-economic system, and implementing climate change countermeasures and sustainable urban planning. Both sides agreed to finalize the country assistance strategy and jointly collaborate to address the challenges and support for the realization of Ethiopia's development objectives, according to Ministry of Finance. Former Chief Representative of JICA Ethiopia Office, Dr. Morihara Katsuki, new Chief Representative of JICA Ethiopia Office, Oshima Kensuke, and officials for the Ethiopian Public Institutes and from the Embassy of Japan and JICA were also present at the meeting.
The Mercy tribe of southern Ethiopia.
እምነት አልባነት መስሎ ተሸጎረ ውሻ
Welcome back. You're watching ABC World. Moving on to news items selected for detailed analysis. A political economic analyst for Africa says Ethiopia's access to seaports benefits all people of East Africa. Lawrence Freeman, who has been involved in economic development policies for Africa for over 30 years, underlined that access to port is critical to accelerate the growth trajectory of Ethiopia and contribute to regional physical economic growth of the country. Tigis Arnisa has gone through Freeman's article and compiled the following account.
Lawrence Freeman is a political economic analyst for Africa who has been involved in economic development policies for Africa for over 30 years. Reflecting on Ethiopia's burning issues of the day, in his latest article, Freeman underscored that Ethiopia's economic case for reliable and cost-effective seaport access is strong. In order to secure its economic future, the country must minimize or completely erase the economic costs associated with being landlocked, Freeman argued. Overall, landlocked countries tend to be 20% less developed than they would be if they had access to the sea. This is partially due to cost of trade, with transportation costs being between 50% up to 262% higher for landlocked countries. Freeman pointed out that, given the significant economic costs associated with being landlocked, it's a no-brainer that for Ethiopia to achieve its ambitious developmental agenda. This, he said, will necessarily require export-oriented industrialization and improved agricultural productivity. It needs to have more control over trade-related costs and policy. Ethiopia is incurring quite a heavy cost after being landlocked. Transportation costs gobble up 16% of the value of international trade. Foreign trade currently amounts to 24% of GDP and needs to grow by orders of magnitude. With an annual output of $127 billion, Ethiopia is already Eastern Africa's biggest economy, but with lots of low-hanging opportunities for even bigger trade-driven output. The article further stressed that last year Djibouti cut stay of cargo days from 45 to 8 days. In addition, the port is more expensive relative to neighbors, often lacks storage space, and suffers from untimely availability of empty containers for exports. As of last year, Djibouti City's share of Ethiopian trade cargo has dropped to 86% from its previous figure of 95%. The Kenyan border Moyale dry port, Somaliland's Berbera, and Djibouti's Tajora are emerging as alternatives. These latter routes, however, lack infrastructure to support bulk haulage logistics. Ethiopia is Djibouti's leading revenue generator ahead of the naval base leases by China, France, the United States, Saudi Arabia, Italy, and Japan. Ethiopian trade reportedly generates more than $1 billion each year of the Djiboutian economy. Rents from foreign military base estimated to be at least $120 million per year. The service sector accounts for nearly 80% of Djiboutian GDP, much of it related to ports and logistics. Ethiopia accounts for upwards of 85% of all cargo passing through Djibouti. Freeman also stated that Ethiopia's planned rail network reflects the country's industrialization agenda.